Good evening, friends. This is Scott Owens coming at you. I'm not the Scott Owens. I'm just the one you got to put up with for the next 5 or 10 minutes here. Jeannie Robertson is a great comedian. She says you got to find the humor in everything. Find a way to laugh. Well, in the Owens family, we find a way to laugh every single day. If we ain't laughed, we ain't got up yet. I'm going to tell you a few stories from our past, and I hope you have a good time listening. I hope you get a good laugh at them, because we sure did in this house. First one starts back in about 1985. My mother comes to me and says, "Scott, honey, can you take me to the doctor tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah, Mom." I said, "No big deal." I said, "I can miss a class or two. It's not that big a deal." And she says, "All right." So off we head to the doctor the next day. And not only did I miss a class or two, I missed every class that day. And about 3.5 hours after I dropped her at the front door, she finally comes out and gets in the car and sits down and says, "Scott, honey, it's going to be a few more minutes. Got a couple more tests to run. I'll be right back." About 45 minutes later, my mama comes back and sits down in the car and looks at me and goes, "Scott, honey, would you rather have a boy or a girl?" And I said, "Mama, I don't even like the girl I'm dating right now. Can you please rephrase that question?" She goes, "Okay. Would you rather have a brother or a sister?" And I said, "Do what, Mama?" And she goes, "Scott, honey, I'm pregnant." I said, "How did that happen?" She goes, "You are 18 years old." I said, "I know how it happened, Mother. I want to know how it happened to you." Well, one thing led to another, and 9 months later, Oops was born. Or at least that's what I've called him his entire life. They handed him to me after Mom and Dad got to hold him for a minute. And I looked at him and I tickled his nose and counted his toes and called him Oops. That was 32 years ago. And we have laughed ever since at my mother being 42 and having her only second baby. And giving me my only sibling finally. Well, my mama, a few years later, was diagnosed with lupus, and it was about to kill her. And luckily, she got breast cancer, and breast cancer saved her life because the chemo threw the lupus into remission and gave us enough time to get her to the right kind of doctors. Now, you think, this guy's nuts. Well, if you're going to laugh through a situation, you're going to laugh through them all. And breast cancer is one that you can laugh through if you got the right kind of family and the right attitude and the good Lord backing you. One Sunday morning, we're sitting in church, and I get in my favorite heckle position just off my mama's left ear, right behind her. And Mama grabs her Southern Baptist bulletin, and she goes to fanning. Well, think about it. This woman is in her 40s, late 40s now, and going through the change because of the chemo. She's having one of them power surges. She wouldn't have a hot flash. No, not my mother. Well, that power surge continues to surge on. And she's fanning harder. Now she's bouncing around in that seat a little bit. And she gets to rocking and she gets to fanning. Looked like Leo Mazzoni sitting on the sideline of a Braves game. Anyway, I leaned up and I whispered in my mama's ear. I said, "Mama, whatever you do, please do not pull that wig off in the middle of this church service and start fanning with that thing." She came unglued. She was laughing so hard that she interrupted the preacher, and he turned around and looked at it. He goes, "Jan, honey, is there something you'd like to share with all of us this morning?" And she goes, "Yes, preacher, there is." She goes, "Number one, I'd like you to throw him out." And he said, "Why?" And she goes, "Because he just told me not to pull off my wig and fan in this church service." The entire congregation came unglued. And about 10 minutes later, everybody's still laughing. There's women in there crying. They all come hug Mom. The head deacon stood up and said, "Preacher, I think what we need to do at this point in time is real simple. Let's just pray and go home." Which we did, but not until after we took up offering. I told you it was a Southern Baptist church. Well, the hilarity just continued on and on and on. Now, I'm going to give you one from my life. I'm a miracle, and I think it will be more correctly Englishly pronounced miracle. I'm a miracle. God has a sense of humor, way better sense of humor than any of us. My wife and I are raising 2 kids, And when they were teenagers, kind of still are, I guess, I coined a phrase in my house, and I would grab my head and I'd shake it back and forth, and I would say, "Oh," as I wait for the sweet release of death of an aneurysm. I no longer say that. Remember I said God has the best sense of humor of all of us? Well, I said it one too many times, and he said, "You know what, Scott? I'm going to do something for you." Aneurysm. And he give me one. And it's in his big old fat belly of mine. No, I'm not the first pregnant man in the world. If I was, I wouldn't be trying to win this contest. This is the result of that aneurysm. But let me tell you a few funny things that occurred when that aneurysm hit me. I was driving along in my truck when it hit. Called my wife and I said, "Y'all going to come up and get my truck. I'm going to call an ambulance." Of course, my wife knew something was bad wrong if I'm going to call an ambulance anyway. No man ever does that for himself. When the ambulance came to me, they pull up and they radio back to dispatch that the victim was found standing next to his truck barefoot. And after they did a few things and got me on the gurney and got me up in the back of the truck, he asked me, he said, "Sir, why were you barefoot?" And I said, "Well, I was fixing to go work on a house remodel, and I didn't want to get y'all's truck dirty with my old nasty boots, so I left them in my truck." He said, "Do what?" And I repeated myself. And then he called back to dispatch. He said, "Disregard that barefoot victim thing. He just didn't want to get our truck dirty, so he left his boots in his truck." The guys back at dispatch came back laughing and said, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm not kidding. That's what he said." So we go racing from Greenville back to Morristown in Tennessee. And we've made really good time right up until the point where we get to that train. Can't cross one of them in an ambulance. Well, we sit there for a minute or two, and I get bored, and I start whistling the tune from Jeopardy. From the front of the truck I hear, "And tonight's double Jeopardy question is..." Well, the double Jeopardy was on me, apparently. Anyway, the train went on, and we got through. We pulled up at the emergency room, and a nurse ran out. I'm thinking, hey, good service tonight. And they opened the doors, and she goes, "Is this my heart attack victim?" The guy said, "No, he's not." And she disappeared. She went back in the emergency room and never came back. What they didn't know at the time was the guy with the heart attack was in much better condition than me. Well, after sitting around in that emergency room for a while and doing some tests, I had another one of them pains in my gut, and I said, "Man, if I fart and this is over." And my best buddy goes, "Son, we will never let you live that down." Well, here in a couple of minutes, the doctor comes in and goes, "Mr. Owens, we're going to need you to see a surgeon over at UT Hospital." And I'm thinking, hey, we can go to see a surgeon tomorrow morning. That's a good idea. I'll go home and get a good night's rest, and we'll go. And all this is going through my mind right up to the point where he goes, "And the helicopter will be here in 10 minutes. And I said, "Do what?" He goes, "You have an aneurysm, sir, in your abdomen, and it has ruptured, and you are bleeding out, and we're going to get you into surgery as quick as possible to try and save your life." Well, I went into panic mode, started acting like a drill sergeant, telling everybody what to do and where to go. And they get me in the back of that helicopter. We're flying to Knoxville, and I start noticing that we're not taking the most direct route to Knoxville. And I know these helicopter rides are expensive. So I start complaining. I said, "Can't we take a more direct route and take some of these miles off?" I said, "This bill's going to be ridiculous." The poor lady that was helping me, she was laughing, and she's trying to be all serious. They're trying to save my life, and here I am worried about the cost of the helicopter ride that's going to save my life. Well, I was in a coma for 3 days after the surgery, and they told the family I'd be in it for a while, and they'd bring me out. Oops, and my son, 16 at the time, thought it would be hilarious. They said, "Let's tell him it's September when he comes out." Well, luckily, my wife was able to squash their plan because she knew that if they told me it was September, the next thing that would have been was a heart attack right there in the middle of the ICU. Yeah, we always keep it funny. And I love them guys for wanting to play that joke, but I sure am glad they didn't get the chance. Y'all keep it funny, laugh every day, be good to each other. God bless you.